So I'm with Jamie Hilsden, who's a writer of messianic songs. Now, Jamie, which songs have you written?
The main song, I think the song that most people know is a song called Yeshua El Yakar, which means Yeshua, Precious Lord. Recently, I started writing a lot more music, and a lot of it hasn't come out yet. The two songs that are becoming more popular now is one of them is called Kol HaNeshama, which is Let Everything That Has Breath, and the other one's called Tiru Kama Tov, which means Behold How Good or See How Good.
So have you got a vision for the future of bringing out a CD?
Yeah, I've been involved in lots of CDs. Right now, I'm working on a CD with a friend of mine named Lior Sperandeo, and we've each written a whole bunch of songs that are worshipful, but also a little bit more kind of youthy. And we're just in the finishing touches of putting that out. So it goes out to mix in a couple weeks. So that's the next CD, but I can see myself continuing to put out CDs, as long as I can.
Is there a lot of Messianic music in Israel today?
I mean, yeah, the Messianic body in Israel is really prolific. People are writing music all the time. I mean, when you think about the size of the body in Israel, it's maybe at the most 15,000 people, and that's maybe like a Christian population of a small town in England or in the United States. So they put out in Israel, hundreds of songs. Every couple of years, we'll have a conference where we share all the new songs. You'll have hundreds of songs, which is rare around the world. That is, like, let's say you went to a small town and they were putting out 100 songs a year. That wouldn't happen.
With Israel being so small, is it easy to have a song written and it become quite popular very quickly?
I don't know if it's that easy. I mean, they do actually happen to be pretty good songs, a good lot of them. Israelis are, not to generalize, but a picky people. And I don't know if it's so easy to just write a song and put it out there. It's still gotta live up to a certain number of standards.
Now, are there any new up-and-coming writers that are coming into Messianic music at the moment?
Yeah, a few of the people that come to mind, one of them is named Stefan Michaesko. He's written a bunch of songs. Some of those have come out on the most recent Tehillah Eloheinu, the Praise to Our God CDs. Another one is Keren Sagin, Lior Sperandeo. Yeah, there's a lot of young people out there. Another one is Danny Povolatsky. He's from the Galilee area. Real talented writer.
Now, you've been involved in the production of Praise to Our God CD. It's a number of CD collection. How did that come about?
Well, I mentioned every couple of years we have a conference where we share all the songs that have been sung around the country. So every 2 years we do that conference, and out of that conference there's a committee that chooses a certain number of those songs, and then a year later those songs will be included on a live CD. And we record it here at the Pavilion, which is part of the King of Kings ministry. And we just put on a concert. We get musicians from around the country, and we record it, do all the repairs and all that. And every 2 years, we come out with a new CD of new songs. It's not an easy process. It's a hard process in choosing the right songs and getting a good flow to it. But it's worth the work, and people seem to really enjoy it.
Now, is there any specific style to Israeli Messianic music, or is it all completely different?
Yeah, Israeli music is just a result of whatever country people come from. Israel, so much of Israel's population is either an immigrant population or a second or third generation immigrant population. So if you come from Morocco, or you come from Iraq or Yemen, then your music is going to have an Arabic feel to it. And a lot of Israeli music does have a Yemenite or a Moroccan feel to it. We call that Mizrahi music, which is Eastern music. But then again, like in the Messianic body, so many people came from the United States and the English-speaking world. So naturally, the music that they write is going to have a more Western flavor to it. So a lot of the Messianic music you'll hear has a Western flavor to it. But to me, that's no less Israeli than a lot of the Israeli music out there, because it's just a reflection of your background, your ethnicity. So it's very, very varied. I personally like to mix the kind of Eastern rhythms and bring in more of the Western melody and the Western chord structures and things like that. Because that's where I come from. I just happen to really like those Eastern beats, that kind of droney beat.
So what instruments do you actually play?
I'm a guitarist mainly. I can play bass too and a little bit of keyboard, but guitar has always been my main instrument.
And do you actually play in a band?
Yeah, actually, I have a rock band called Man Alive, and we put out like 4 records and 2 EPs. I spent a good part of the last decade touring the United States and Europe and Canada. Probably played around 400 shows with that band. So that one is, it's not as overtly messianic or worshipful or something like that. Really, it's something that we did for fun when we were in our early 20s, and people in Israel first really seemed to like it, and people started to come into shows. We said, well, why don't we try putting out a record overseas and try touring overseas? And that we had a really good run doing that. Had a lot of fun doing that.
So who's your influences? Who's been influencing you?
My influences, man, they're so varied. I mean, I'm a huge Beatles fan. I'm not going to lie. So that's a big influence for me, especially on how they structure their songs. I think a lot of my song structure comes from them. Like I said, a lot of Israeli Mizrahi music, the Oriental Israeli music, is a big influence on me, especially when it comes to the rhythms. There's one artist out there, his name is Idan Reichel. He's an Israeli artist who sings in Hebrew, but he incorporates a lot of Ethiopian themes into his music. That's been a big influence on me, to see how you can take certain ethnic sounds and ethnic beats and bring a Western melodic flavor to it.
Now, you're from Canada. Is it easy to write Hebrew music from Canada?
Well, I moved to Israel when I was 4 years old, so I learned Hebrew. Just when I was 5 years old, they stuck me in a Hebrew-speaking kindergarten, and I went to Hebrew school. So I have to admit, English music does usually come more naturally to me. I've written a lot more English songs in the past, but recently I find that the Hebrew worship stuff comes out a lot more easily than the English stuff. I mean, living here my whole life, it comes pretty naturally, I suppose, writing in Hebrew.
So what's your story? How did you become a believer, and how did you come to the land of Israel?
Well, my dad's a pastor. My mom's a music minister at King of Kings community in Jerusalem. So that's the reason we came to Israel in the first place. I was 4 years old, like I said. And I can remember at the age of 6 already, just being convinced of the truth of the gospel, knew it was true, told my mom. I think I told my mom like 5 times that I accepted Jesus into my heart. I think because I kept forgetting that I did it. So I have a lot of salvation reports for myself. But it wasn't until I was really, I think it was when I was 17, right when I finished high school, that I said, okay, you know what, this thing is an all or nothing thing. I think that I was under the illusion for most of my life, in my childhood and my teenage years, that I could kind of straddle both worlds. But once I finished high school, I realized, it's all or nothing. So when I was 17, I just said, you know what, I'll give everything, give my job, my music, and all that kind of stuff. It's all yours. So that's been my story. And that was actually happened to be at the time when I was 17. I left Israel. And I left for 3 years, and I ended up going to Bible college. And when I was 21, I came back to Israel, finished my Bible college here, and I've been here ever since. Besides, of course, all the times when I would go on tour. That's kind of the abbreviated story of Jamie Hilsden.
So do you actually feel Israeli, or do you feel Canadian?
People ask me that all the time. And it's hard to say. I mean, I don't feel particularly Canadian. I went there and I realized very quickly that I was terrible at hockey. So that was the first indication that my Canadianism was less than complete, let's say. But at the same time, in Israel, I mean, I look differently than most Israelis. I kind of blue-eyed. I don't know. I mean, I fit in certain segments of Israeli society, and other segments of Israeli society, I stick out like a sore thumb. So I don't know what I am, and honestly, I don't really care that much. Israeli, Canadian, who cares? But when an Israeli says to me, you're Israeli, then I say, okay, cool, I accept that. And then if an Israeli says to me, you're really a Canadian, then I say, cool, whatever.
So is there actually any Messianic song where you'd actually really say, I wish I'd written that song?
Yeah, there's a lot of songs that were written in the 70s, actually. David Loden, he wrote songs like Ram Venisa, Adonai Adonenu, Oni Batzion. That's not one of the songs I wish I wrote. I'm not as much into the Oompa music, but here, like songs like the first 2 I mentioned, Ram Venisa, Adonai Adonenu. Those are incredible songs. Especially Adonai Adonenu. He takes I forget what psalm it is, what number it is. Oh Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. But he does a song with that whole psalm, and it just flows as if the music and the words were written at the same time. That really is like the magic of that's when the song is the best, where you feel like the music and the words are coming out at the same time. Now, so when you take scripture and take a whole psalm, it's not a short psalm, and to make that sound like it's made for that music, that's incredible. And so that's one of the songs that, who cares who wrote it, but I probably would have felt a little chip on my shoulder if I wrote that one.
And what's your prayer for Messianic music?
What's my prayer for Messianic music? It's a good question. I pray that it's just honest. That's one of the main things. I pray that people write something that's from their heart, that it overflows from a personal relationship, I pray that it becomes original. I think we do have a tendency to rip off other artists or to rip off each other, and we end up kind of having this inbred genre of music where all the songs kind of start sounding like each other. There's a danger of going there. I don't think we're too bad in that direction, but I just pray that people really take their art seriously, and every day they get up and try to write a song and really develop their own sound, their own style. I just pray that people just keep doing it.
Okay, Jamie, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, man. It's my pleasure.